So we're continuing now in the Gemara. We got up to the point that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is meeting with his nephew, who's the head of the Biryonim. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says, let us make peace already. How come you guys are going to cause so many people to die? Let us go out and negotiate and make peace. And he says, I agree with you, but at this point, it's taken on a life of its own, and there's nothing I can do about it. I can't stop it, and even if I would try to stop it, they wouldn't listen to me, and they would sooner kill me. They would sooner kill me than than stop what they're doing. So then he said, well, at least can you help smuggle me out? We'll pick it up from there. So at least you find a takana, at least find a solution for me to get out. Maybe that would be some sort of a help. Not to save himself, not trying to say to get out so that he'll be saved and book out of there. The point is that he'll be able to go out and negotiate on behalf of the Jews that are in Yerushalayim, which is going to see that's what happened. So he said, this is now the nephew. The nephew of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who, again, the leader of the Biryonim, who is now, working, a double agent right now. He's working on behalf of the Rabbanon now, and he's coming up with the plan to how to smuggle Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai out of Yerushalayim. So he says, this is the plan. Nakot nafshach b'ketziri. So pretend that you're sick. Start acting like you're ill, like you're getting not well. V'leisi kuli alma v'lishai libach. And let everybody come and ask about you, and make it very public. That all of a sudden, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, because of the situation, the stress of the situation has broken him, and he's deathly ill, and everyone's going to be asking and talking about it, and there are going to be tefillah gatherings and all of these things. And I just want to say, I just thought about this now as I was reading this. I was just thinking about it. It's obviously okay. This was necessary to do. It was necessary to do such a ruse. This trick in order to save Klal Yisrael. But at the same time, imagine Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, one of the leaders of Klal Yisrael, one of the Gedolei Ador, in a terrible time of tzara as it is, when people are dying in starvation, all these things, and now one of the greatest leaders is dying. Can you imagine the tefillah gatherings and the tehillim gatherings and all the things that would have been going on, and everyone davening for him, or refuah shalema, when meanwhile he wasn't really sick and the whole thing was a fake. But there's I don't know. I think we spoke about this when it came to the kidnappings, and everyone was davening for the boys to be returned and that they should come home safely, and really they were really dead from the first few minutes of the whole thing. And what's with all those tefillos? And we spoke about it, that maybe those tefillos are what have offered tremendous protection for Klal Yisrael during the tremendous tzara that we're going through now. Hashem knows what to do with the tefillos. He knows what to do with it. So I'm just saying maybe the same thing over here. I didn't see this inside him. I just thought about this now while we're learning that it could be the same idea that even though all of Klal Yisrael was davening for him and everyone heard that he was sick and everything, everyone was upset. But we also needed those tefillos at the time, and we'll see that he was taka successful. He was able to help in some way. And it could be that those tefillos were part of that whole Yeshua, at least the minor Yeshua that he was able to pull off. Okay, which we'll see in a second. Okay, anyway, that's what he says. He says specifically, though, a part of the plan is to make it very public. V'laisi kuli alma v'lishai libach, and so let everybody hear about this and ask about you. V'aisi midi sarya v'angi gabach. And now then find something smelly, like a small dead animal or something, and put it into the bed with you, put it there with you, so that they'll start to be, and pretend that you're dead, and people will think already that you're starting to smell. People think, oh my gosh, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was nifter, and is already starting to be masriach, is already starting to smell. Then let only your students come in. In other words, they have to know about this in advance. The students are going to come in, and they should be the ones to carry you. Yeah, nobody else should be the one to be involved. Because he says that a person who's alive weighs less, than a person who's dead. In other words, that there's a certain idea of a chayin nosi etz atzmo, a certain idea that a living being, carries some of its own weight. He helps the distribution of his weight in such a way that it makes it easier to carry. Right? It's true if anybody's ever carried a child who's awake versus a child who's sleeping. They feel a lot heavier because when a child's awake, so their movement helps your center of gravity, and it makes it feel lighter for you. Anyway, as we're saying, so because you're going to be alive, you should only allow people who are close to you, only your talmidim, to carry you, because so they won't realize that you're light. The inu yodi dechai kol lemisa. So maybe even the talmidim won't know. In other words, even the talmidim maybe are not supposed to know about this. But the idea is that they won't know the difference. In other words, he should leave in his tzava very specific who should be the ones to carry him, because his talmidim won't realize the fact that he's light. It means that he's still alive. But the biryonim, if you have other people that are the ones to carry you, yodi dechaya kalal memisa, so they know that the alive person is lighter than a dead person, because they dealt with dead people. They're tough guys with murderers and all sorts of things. So they would know the difference, and they would pick up on the scam. So Avid Hachi, so they did this whole he did this whole plan, right? Imagine, still again, it's to us it's like a story in the Gemara, but imagine in real life it's like a real story of intrigue. Again, one of the Gedolei Hador and his nephew, and they're coming to collude together to come to a plan, and a whole fake weeks of acting, or days of acting, being sick, and then pretending to be dead, and making sure that the right people carry him, and it's a whole thing. And we'll see, it's not over yet. It wasn't even necessarily going to be successful. We'll see. Unbelievable what happens here. Okay, Avid Hachi. So they did the whole thing. They did the whole plan. So Nichnas bo Rabbi Elazar mitzad echad, Rabbi Yeshua mitzad acher. So his Talmidim, Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yeshua, were the ones to carry him out. Kimatu lepischa. Kimatu lepischa. Now listen to this. So they wanted to take him out of Yerushalayim to bury him, because there's no cemetery in the old city. There's no cemetery in the within the walls of Yerushalayim. So they wanted to take him out of the walls of Yerushalayim in order to bury him. But again, there were guards from the Biryonim stationed at the exits to Yerushalayim. They literally were not letting people leave Yerushalayim. So when they came, now you had two Gedolei Hador carrying one of the Gedolei Hador that everybody knows is dead. Everybody heard he was sick. Everyone saw the tefillos. Everyone heard everything. Everyone heard about him. And then you have two Gedolim carrying this Rav. And they get to the fence, they get to the gate where the Biryonim are on the inside and the Romans are on the outside. And listen to this, Boy Midkure, the Biryonim, meaning the Jewish guys on the inside, wanted to stab the body to make sure he was dead. That's the type of Rishayim we're talking about over here. Like the body of Rav Yochanan and Zakkai, right? A holy Kadosh person being carried out. Boy Midkure, they wanted to stab him. Amalahu Yomu Rabban Dakaru. You want the Romans to think that we killed our rabbi? You want the Romans to think that we stabbed our own rabbi, and that's why he died? So that would be a terrible thing. As I say, there's an interesting thing. This is also a major theme that's come up many times in the history of Klal Yisrael. Even when we are being persecuted by the Goyim, and when we're under the shlita, under the dominion, or the rulership, living in their lands, they still like it when there's like a hierarchy, and when the Jews show respect for the hierarchy, and that there's not total anarchy. There's at least some sort of organization. We certainly know this from the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, right? That everything they tried to do, they tried to make it very organized within the Jewish structure itself. Right? If they would have sensed in a particular ghetto or in a camp or something, that the Jews themselves were rising up against the Judenrat, or against whoever they were, so that would have made them very nervous. Because so that's exactly what we see over here. The Biryonim said, the Rabbanan said to the Biryonim, you want the Romans to think that that you guys killed one of your own leaders, one of the only leaders of our city. That would make them very nervous. Then they may suspect that there's anarchy going on here, and then who knows what they'll do? Maybe they'll just bust right in here and kill everybody, which again is going to end up happening anyway. It's just interesting. Again, you see these same type of themes happened, over and over. I don't know. Other things come to mind also in terms of historically, where you had this idea that when the government saw that there was machlokes among Klal Yisrael, and they saw that there was machlokes among the Jews, and that we were not unified in something. That's what gave them an opportunity to close period. Okay, we'll talk about another time. Okay, so Bolim Bidchafe, so they said, okay, fine, so we're not going to stab him, but they wanted to push him, they want to like shake him, see, Amar Lahu, Yomu Rabbanan Dachavu, they're going to say maybe that, you shook him to death, they're going to see signs of trauma on his body, this type of thing, Paschule, Bava, no, fuck. So they opened up the gate and they took him out. It's an amazing thing. Imagine these two people, this all everybody here literally risking their lives against other Jews, Rahman al-Islam, risking their lives in order to try to escape Yerushalayim, right? Mamish, in order to escape Yerushalayim, in order to meet with the enemy, to meet with the Romans, in order to negotiate with them. That's what's happening over here. Kimatul Hassam, when they got there. So now again, who's out there? Vespasian, Aspasianos Caesar. Vespasian, who was a big Russia. We're going to say he was a Russia, and we're going to see his son, who's about to replace him, as perhaps even a bigger Russia. But almost all of the Midrashim and stories that you see in Eicha, the Midrashim in Eicha, and all these things that talk about the atrocities that were committed against Klal Yisrael, and many of them are done either by Aspasianos Caesar or Titus, which we're going to see in a second. So we're seeing now Vespasian at this point again was just a general. At this point he was just a general in the army that had replaced Nero when Nero fled and became Jewish. So then Vespasian replaced him, and he is the one who was placing the siege on Jerusalem. Okay, so now what happens is this Yochanan ben Zakkai is smuggled out, and he gets a meeting. He gets an audience with Aspasianos, and he says to him like this. Kimata Hasam Amar Shlama Alecha Malka, Shalma Alecha Malka. He says to him, Shalom Aleichem Melech, Shalom Aleichem Melech. Hello King, hello King. Okay, that's how he started with this. So that was like, he wasn't a king, he was a general, and we'll see in a second if he was trying to flatter him. So it didn't work. Amar Lei, he said to him, Mechayeves Trei Katla, you're chayev misa twice. This is how the Vespasian responds to Rabbi Yochanan. You're chayiv misa 2 times. You should be killed twice. Chada delav malka ana. Number 1, you are what you are doing is like a merida b'malchus. It's like you're undermining the king because I'm not the king. There's a king who's sitting in Rome right now, and if you're calling me the king, so then you're undermining him. So that's number 1. The kakaris the malka, and you're calling me a king. Visu, and secondly. If I really am a king, if I really am the king, so how come until now you haven't come to me? How come you didn't come to me until now? How come, in other words, you're chayv misa twice. 1, for proclaiming me the king when I'm not. And 2, l'shitascha, according to you, if you did think I'm the king, so then how come you waited so long until you came to me? It's been years since we've laid siege to here. How come you're waiting inside with the king waiting outside over here? That's what he said. Amarlei, so Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai responds to him, Dika Amrat, Lav Malka Ana, that you said, I'm not the king. We're turning the page now onto Nun Vav Amud Beis. Ibra, Malka At, no, the truth of the matter is you are the king. And we'll see in a second that he ends up being proven correct. That's what he says. Ibra, no, the truth is that you are the king. Di'ilav Malka At, because if you are not the king, Lo mimsra Yerushalayim biyodcha. I know. How do I know? This is an amazing thing, right? How did he know this? How did he know to? He's been in Yerushalayim. This is the day before radio and internet, and there was no messaging going on that was saying what the politics were going on in Rome. He had no idea what was going on, but he knew it. He knew that he was the king. Why? Because the pasuk says so. Di'ilav malka'at. Because if you're not really the king, lo mimsra Yerushalayim biyodcha. Yerushalayim would not be delivered into your hand. Tichsiv v'halavanon va'adir yipol. Levanon, which is a reference to Yerushalayim, is going to only fall to the hands of the mighty, Ba'adir, the hands of the mighty one, which is the mightiest one of the nation. Ve'ein Adir el Melech, and we know that there's nobody called an Adir except for the king. Dechsiv v'haya Adiro mimenu, another pasuk in Yirmiyah. Ve'ein Levanon el Beis Hamikdash, shenemar ahara tov hazev al Levanon. Okay, so he quotes various psukim, again, the Chazal understanding that, basically that Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai was saying that no, you are the king, because if Yerushalayim fell to you, if you were the one who was successful in laying siege to Jerusalem, so then there's no question about it that you are destined to be the king, if not the king already, because of these psukim. Okay, Vitika Amrat Imalka Ana Amailo Ka'asis Lagabai Ada Idna, and that you asked me the other question, if I am the king, meaning if you, Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, thought I am the king, how come you didn't come to me until now? Biryoni de Isban Lo Shavkinan. There are biryonim there that are not letting us out. So now finally the truth is getting out. Finally, you have somebody on the other side, on the inside, telling the Romans, look, we want to make peace with you. We're not looking to cause any problems. We want to, explain to you what happened with the sacrifice, and it was already years ago that happened, right? 3-4 years ago when all these things took place. We want to explain to you what happened. We want to go back to the status quo, back to a situation, right? But there's these tough guys that are in there. There's this rogue group of people there. Lo Shavkinam, they're not letting us out. Right, so amazing. So you have it's just like so many different layers here. Right? You have the view of the outside world, which is the view of the Romans that the Jews are rebelling, right? And there's this mass revolt going on, and there's this mass rebellion, and they're just getting ready for war, and they're fortifying their city, and all of these things are going on, right? When in actuality, right, it's the main speaker for the Jews, Chazal, the Rabbanon, the people, the Mechubad people of Yerushalayim don't agree with that at all. They're just stuck and they're trapped that they can't get out. And then you have the Biryonim, the leader of whom also feels the same way, and he's also trapped and he can't get out. And who knows, maybe there are many of them, others of the Biryonim that also felt the same way. I'm sure if the leader felt that way, so you end up having a situation, right, where the entire view to the outside world is being dictated by a few Rishayim, mamish, by a few Rishayim, by a small group of people who are evil, who don't speak for the Torah, who don't stand for the Torah, probably have no idea what the Torah says and don't care what the Torah says about something. Yeah, but even within their own group, they're dictating policy to the leaders of their group, and they're painting the whole Klal Yisrael a certain way, and that's the picture that everybody on the outside has. And now finally, again, I don't have to draw the parallels to what's going on, whatever, in the world, and I don't know, just how you see these things happen, but that's what happens. So finally, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai gets out. He breaches through all the Biryonim's defenses of not letting anybody out, and he has this conversation, and he tells them, "We've been wanting to make peace with you for years. Biryoni de isban lo shavkinon. We're not. I was not able to get out." Okay, so Amar Leis, now the Aspasianos Vespasian responds now with like a parable. And he says like this: Ilu chavis shel davash v'darkon karuch aleh. If you've got a barrel of honey, and you have a snake wrapped around the barrel, lo hayu shovrin es hachavis b'shvil darkon. Would you not break the barrel in order to kill the snake? Right? In other words, look, Rashi says, just explain the mashal. Ein shovrin es hachavis. Wouldn't you break the barrel? Kadesh yelech lo adarkon. Right? In other words, if you're carrying a person's carrying, let's just put it into modern terms. Right? Person's carrying a very expensive bottle of wine in their hand. But the wine, they're holding it at the bottom of the bottle, and it goes up to here, and they're walking with it, and then they see there's a giant scorpion at the tip of the bottle, starting to crawl its way towards the person's hand. So let's say a person who really cares about their wine, so they'll try to shake it off 1 or 2 times. But I would venture to say that comfortably before the scorpion is even close to the person's hand, the person would throw the bottle of wine to the ground, let it shatter, no matter what the vintage, no matter what the year is, and hopefully kill the scorpion at the same time. Right? Let the scorpion shatter with the glass and the wine. So that's the mashal that he's saying. Yeah, kadesh yelech lo adarkon kach hayolachem lahashchis chomas ha'ir. So he says, you should have been more aggressive in your stance against the Biryonim. You should have tried to break through the walls. In other words, he's saying that you should have tried. The Vespasian is saying you should have tried to be more, even if it meant breaking Yerushalayim, breaking the walls of Yerushalayim, or burning the walls of Yerushalayim in order to get rid of the Biryonim, or to get out, to rid yourself of the Biryonim, then you should have done that. That's what he says. Ishtik. So he was quiet. He was quiet. Meaning he didn't answer. Meaning that it seems that Vespasian got the better of Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai in this time. He's not going to kill him. He didn't hold him to be Chayav Misa. No, he had two answers for the two challenges that Vespasian posed. Again, one was, I'm not the king, and Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai said, yes, you are the king. Well, we'll see what will happen with that in a minute. And number two is, well, if I am the king, how come you didn't come until now? So to that, Vespasian responds first, and he said, well, so he said, I couldn't get out because of the Biryonim. I couldn't get out because of the thugs, these militant chevra over there. So to that, he says, well, that you should have broken the barrel. Okay, and it seems that Rav Yochanan was quiet. In other words, he says, okay, you're right, I should have. So now this is interesting. The Gemara has here now a very interesting aside. Before we continue with the story, the Gemara just says the following. Kariyala Rav Yosef. They were told Rav Yosef was significantly later. Visem Rabbi Akiva was closer to the same time. But there's a question about who is the one who said this about Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai. But there's a pasuk in Yeshaya that says, Meishiv Chachamim Achor V'Daitom Yisakel, that Hashem sometimes will turn backwards the chachma of the wise. He'll turn their wisdom backwards. V'daitam yisakel, and he'll make their das foolish. In other words, there are times that Hashem will confuse somebody. And it's like a person, if a chacham anyway, a talmid chacham, a person who should know better. But there'll be times when Hashem needs a certain thing to take place. Hashem needs a certain a series of events to fall into place. So there are times that Hashem will make a person confused and either not be able to answer, like in this case, or to answer in a way that maybe he could have said a better answer, as we're going to see coming up soon. We're going to say the same pasuk again. Okay, he should have answered him as follows. In other words, Rav Yosef or Rabbi Akiva are saying that there was a way that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai could have answered. He could have answered him as follows: Shaklinin tzavsa v'shaklinin le l'darkon v'katlina le v'chavisa shavkinin le. He says, no, there's another way. I could take tzavsa, tongs, pincers, v'shaklina le, and grab the poisonous snake, v'katlina le, and kill it, v'chavisa shavkina la, and I could leave the barrel. I could have left the barrel intact. In other words, so that's what he says. Rashi explains, Kach hayunu mitzapim ulai nucha lehem ulahotzia mimeno v'tia ir kayemes v'nashli mimcha. We were hoping to get both. We were hoping to rid ourselves of the Biryonim and to not have to destroy Yerushalayim in the process. In other words, you were saying to us, we should have done anything we could to rid ourselves of the Biryonim, even if it meant breaking down our own city. And we're telling you, no, we thought there was another way, which is in terms of the mashal. Again, Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai didn't say this, but they're saying later he should have said this. In terms of the mashal of taking pincers and taking away the snake rather than having to shatter the whole thing. If you have the opportunity to do that, you should sooner try to do that. Obviously until the last second, and that's what we were trying to do here, and that's what we're doing right now. That's why we came out to meet you. That's what he should have said, but he didn't. He was quiet at that time. Okay. Anyway, this is what that was a side point. Now we're going back to the story. So again, okay, you know what? Maybe we'll stop here. We'll break it up into another one, and we'll see what happened. Again, we're holding though that the first thing that he said, if you're chayav misa for calling me the king, because I'm not the king, and Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai said, well, you are the king, because if not, you wouldn't have beaten Yerushalayim. So we don't see how he responded to that, because in the meantime he did beat Yerushalayim, and in the meantime he's not the king. So we'll have to see as the Gemara continues now.